Why do some instruments of war vanish quietly into museums, while others remain, scarred but present, on the battlefields of every era? Is survival a matter of technology alone or of an idea so deeply aligned with human conflict that it resists replacement? Long before algorithms mapped targets and missiles promised precision without presence, war demanded something heavier. Something that could endure fear, chaos, and resistance. The tank was born into that demand. And despite decades of predictions announcing its death, it remains unchanged in purpose, altered only in form. At the dawn of the 20th century, industrial war had reached a stalemate of flesh and mud. Infantry advanced, died, and advanced again. Artillery shattered landscapes faster than men could cross them. Movement became a liability. Defense ruled the battlefield. Armies possessed firepower without mobility, protection without momentum. Every advance cost thousands of lives for a few meters of ground. Strategy narrowed. Time slowed, war became attrition, measured in exhaustion rather than victory. What commanders lacked was not courage or manpower. They lacked a way to move through fire without being consumed by it. Change was no longer optional, it was inevitable. The tank did not begin as a symbol of dominance. It began as a desperate question: how does one cross a battlefield that kills everything that moves? Early designs were crude, unreliable, and often ridiculed. Machines broke down more often than they advanced. Crews suffocated in heat and fumes. Military traditionalists doubted their value. Cavalry officers dismissed them as mechanical fantasies. Yet the idea persisted. A protected force that could move, shoot, and survive. This was not merely a new weapon, it was a new grammar of war, combining mobility, firepower, and armor into a single sentence that the battlefield could understand. When tanks first rolled into combat, they did not win wars overnight. They stalled, burned, and failed. But they also did something unprecedented. They moved forward. Infantry followed them instinctively, drawn by the illusion of safety. Enemy soldiers hesitated not because the tank was invincible, but because it was unfamiliar. Psychological shock traveled faster than steel. Victory was uneven. Losses were real. But something had shifted. The battlefield had been breached not tactically, but conceptually. War had rediscovered momentum. No advantage remains unanswered. Anti-tank weapons emerged. New doctrines formed. Air power promised to bypass armor entirely. Missiles claimed to render heavy vehicles obsolete. And yet, tanks adapted. They grew smarter, not just stronger. Armor became layered and reactive. Sensors extended vision beyond human limits. Coordination with infantry, artillery, and air units transformed the tank from a lone predator into a node within a system. The tank survived not because it resisted change, but because it absorbed it. The true turning point was not technological, it was strategic. Modern armies realized that control of territory, physical, visible, and persistent, still mattered. Precision strikes could destroy targets. They could not occupy space. Drones could observe, they could not reassure allies or intimidate enemies by their presence alone. The tank remained the only instrument that could arrive, endure, and remain. At that moment, the debate ended. Not loudly, but definitively. Today's tanks are quieter, more networked, more restrained, yet their essence remains unchanged. They exist where violence is personal and space must be held. They shape doctrine, budgets, and geopolitical calculations. They remind strategists that war is not fought solely in data streams, but on ground that bleeds and remembers. The tank's legacy is not glory. It is persistence. And persistence, in war, is power. Every generation believes it stands at the edge of a revolution that will finally make the past irrelevant. Artificial intelligence, autonomous swarms, hypersonic speed. Wars, we are told, will be decided before soldiers arrive. And yet, history remains unconvinced. Future battlefields will be faster, more connected, more lethal at range. But they will also be more crowded, more urban, more constrained by civilians, infrastructure, and political consequence. War is not dissolving into cyberspace. It is compressing into cities, borders, and contested ground where presence matters. In such environments, abstraction fails. Algorithms cannot occupy intersections. Satellites cannot clear buildings. Precision weapons cannot substitute for endurance. When chaos fractures plans and certainty collapses, commanders still reach for something solid, something that can move deliberately through uncertainty and stay when everything else withdraws. The tank persists here, not as a relic, but as ballast. A force that slows war down enough to be controlled. Its future form may be unmanned or optionally crewed. Its armor may rely more on deception than thickness. Its gun may share authority with drones and networks, but its purpose will remain ancient and unromantic. To be present, to absorb risk, to hold space. History suggests that as long as humans fight over land rather than simply data, the tank will not disappear. It will shed weight, gain intelligence, lose crew, regain crew. It will adapt, as it always has, to the violence humans choose rather than the wars they imagine. Progress does not erase necessity. It only disguises it. And the battlefield, indifferent to fashion, will continue to ask the same question it has asked for over a century. Who can move forward and remain? For more than half a century, the tank has been pronounced obsolete with ritual confidence. Each declaration arrives after a new invention, a new theory, a new promise of clean and distant war. And each time, history listens patiently, then does nothing. Predictions age quickly. Battlefields do not. What endures is not the platform, but the problem it solves. War repeatedly collapses elegant plans into brutal simplicity. Communication fails. Airspace is denied. Precision degrades. In that silence, armies fall back on what can survive isolation. The tank thrives in that silence. Cut off, damaged, imperfect, it remains operational. It does not require permission from the sky. It does not vanish when networks fracture. Its value is not speed, but continuity, its ability to function when modern war becomes inconveniently primitive. This is why tanks return in every unexpected war, not because planners forgot the future, but because the future arrived incomplete. History does not reward those who predict endings. It rewards those who understand recurrence. The tank is not immortal, no weapon is, but its disappearance will not come from a headline technology or a doctrinal fashion. It will come only when war itself no longer requires physical resolve, when control, fear, and survival cease to have geography. Until then, the tank will remain what it has always been. Not a weapon of the future, not a relic of the past, but a reminder, quiet, armored, and patient, that some truths of war refuse to expire. Beneath armor thickness, beyond engines and sensors, there is a quieter reason the tank endures. It is not mechanical. It is human. War is ultimately decided by people who must move forward while knowing they might not return. No doctrine, however elegant, removes that burden. No technology abolishes fear. It merely redistributes it. The tank concentrates fear into steel and gives it shape. Inside its hull, humans accept risks so others may advance. Outside it, soldiers read intent, not in data, but in presence. An armored vehicle on the horizon speaks a language older than radio. Someone is coming, and they intend to stay. This psychological gravity cannot be digitized. Modern warfare often imagines the removal of humans from danger as progress. Yet history shows that when human commitment disappears, control weakens. Territory contested without occupation becomes temporary. Influence exercised without presence becomes negotiable. The tank persists because it binds human decision to physical consequence. It is slow enough to be deliberate, vulnerable enough to demand respect, powerful enough to matter. It forces commanders to confront responsibility rather than outsource it to distance. In this sense, the tank is less a weapon than a contract between leadership and those who execute its will on the ground. As long as war requires humans to decide, to endure, and to remain accountable for ground taken and held, machines that embody that responsibility will endure as well. Steel does not replace courage. It carries it forward. And so, through centuries of change, one constant remains. War adapts, technology evolves, predictions fail. But the human need for presence, resolve, and weight in conflict refuses to disappear. That is why the tank does not fade. It reflects us. Many weapons promise to end war from a distance. Few survive contact with reality. The tank endures because it answers an ancient requirement. The need to advance without vanishing, to protect without retreating, to exist where conflict is unresolved. Steel may age. Circuits may change, but the idea remains. Weapons can rust. Ideas do not.